So as of December 15th, it is officially trade season in the NBA. With so many players signing new deals last offseason, a significant percentage of the league wasn't even eligible to be traded until very recently, and the rumors have really started to heat up. One of the most significant names that could be available is Jrue Holiday, as the Pelicans are in the midst of an awful losing streak and don't look to be on their way to the playoffs this season, which could force the team to look further into the future with their plans and get some young assets in return for such a versatile and productive backcourt player. So here are some of my own as well as community suggested trades for Jrue Holiday of the New Orleans Pelicans. First up is Holiday going to the Indiana Pacers in exchange for Myles Turner, TJ McConnell, and Jakar Sampson. So let's talk about this first for the Pacers. We've had them in a couple of different trade machine videos specifically for perimeter players, and that's simply because they have this two-headed monster in the front court of Myles Turner and Domantas Sabonis that it looks like they're going to probably try and move on from, and reportedly Turner is the guy that they're looking to trade. And in this circumstance, they're trying to get even more backcourt help for their new combination of Malcolm Brogdon as well as Victor Oladipo. And the interesting part about trading for Holiday is I feel like there's a real opportunity to play all three of those guys at the same time, because even though Holiday has been a point guard in the past, a lot of times he prefers to play the two and play off the ball, and he has the size and defensive skills to even be part of a three-guard lineup, with Holiday, Brogdon, and Oladipo all on the floor at the same time, which in my opinion would be a really interesting thing to see. And then again, it takes away some of their talent from the front court and spreads it out once again into the backcourt. In terms of the Pelicans, they're getting back Myles Turner, who will be a pretty good long-term piece for them. He's signed for the next, I believe, 4 seasons and is someone that you know is going to be a good starting 5 in the league during that entire length of that contract. They do have Jackson Hayes currently at the 5 spot, but he is a bit more of a project at the moment, and getting a solid player that you know is good right now doesn't really give up very much value for them in terms of a drop-off between Holiday and Turner in a trade, and also helps them be good now as well as in the future. The other 2 players here are mostly just here to make the salaries work. This is essentially a Turner for Holiday swap. You could convince me that the Pacers need to add in a first-round pick in this deal. That's definitely a legitimate cause for concern if you're a Pelicans fan that's thinking they're not getting enough in return for Holiday. And as an added bonus, all 3 of the Holiday brothers would be on the same team in Indiana. Next up, Juan has a trade in which the Bucks received Jrue Holiday in exchange for Eric Bledsoe, Ersan Ilyasova, and a 2020 first-round pick, as well as 2 future second-round picks. So this is a really interesting trade for me because I think the Bucks are definitely a team that would look to make a move, because even as good as their record is, I do think there are ways that they can shore up and improve their roster. But the problem is, as you look at their team, there's just not a ton of options in terms of contracts to match other big contracts around the league. So a lot of the times when you see Bucks trades, they're either smaller ones involving smaller salaried players, or they're involving Eric Bledsoe like this one is. So in my opinion, I think Jrue Holiday is a significantly better player than Eric Bledsoe. I'm not a big fan of Bledsoe at all. I do think that he does some good things defensively, brings good energy, but from an efficiency standpoint, from a versatility standpoint, Holiday is significantly better, and this would be an upgrade for sure for the Bucks. And they're really only giving up a player, like I said, that is of lesser value at the exact same spot in Bledsoe, and then a front court player in Ilyasova as well. My problem with this is I'm not really sure why the Pelicans would do this outside of the picks that they would be getting in return, and if it's Indiana's, it's likely going to be a late first round pick anyway. I'm not really sure that Bledsoe provides them very much value until he isn't expiring down the road, and then the Ilyasova contract would be the exact same way. So this is essentially a downgrade at the point guard spot for the Pelicans in exchange for a late first round pick, which doesn't make a ton of sense to me, but on the other side for the Bucks, I really like it. Next up now is Jrue Holiday being sent to the Clippers in exchange for Mo Harkless, Zubac, Jerome Robinson, and Landry Shamet. So this is another team similar to the Bucks that want to probably make a move at some point, but they don't really have the contracts to make it work, although the Clippers do have this big Mo Harkless expiring, which definitely helps them. They're giving up the Harkless expiring, they're giving up 3 young players in exchange for a player that's going to immediately upgrade their point guard spot, as well as just their starting unit as a whole. And then you can roll out a lineup of Holiday, Patrick Beverley probably, then Kawhi, then Paul George, and then Montrezl Harrell, whoever you want to roll out at the 5 spot. Now, this does sacrifice a significant amount of depth for the Clippers, but I really think that Holiday is a plug-and-play player for any contender. He's going to be a really good defender. He's going to be an outstanding playmaker. He's going to be able to make shots, and I think he would be a really good addition for this team. The problem is, like I said, they're giving up depth, and I'm not sure who would start at the 5 spot moving forward for this team unless they got some kind of buyout player, which is definitely a possibility for the Clippers given their championship aspirations as well as their location, because they ideally wouldn't be starting Montrezl Harrell at the 5 because they like bringing him and Lou Williams off the bench together. On the other hand, for the Pelicans, they're getting the expiring contracts, so they're out from under at least half of Holiday's salary immediately, and then the 3 young players that could be good down the road, the most significant of which, in my opinion, is Shamet as an outstanding shooter and someone that's going to continue to grow and develop as a playmaker. I do still like Jerome Robinson as a backcourt player as well, and then Zubac is going to be a solid starting 5 moving forward the rest of the way. So it's not outstanding value, but the problem is the Clippers don't really have picks to trade because they've already given them all away to Oklahoma City, so there's not a ton else that they can do here in terms of additional compensation. But if the other offers out there aren't that great, this could be an offer that I could see the Pelicans accepting, and it really helps out the Clippers, and in the long term helps out the Pelicans as well. Next up, Josh says that the Pelicans would receive Gary Harris, Malik Beasley, Jared Vanderbilt, and a first-round pick in 2022 from the Nuggets in exchange for Jrue Holiday. He says New Orleans gets a solid role player in Harris, potentially another solid rotation player in Beasley, a young asset, and a mid-first-round pick. Denver gets a veteran presence to help Murray and take some of the playmaking pressure away from Jokic. So this is a really common landing spot for Jrue Holiday. A lot of people want to trade some of the Nuggets' younger assets away in exchange for a more proven backcourt player, because at the moment it seems like that's what's holding them back as a team. Jokic is going to continue to be good. I've had my problems with him so far this season, but he's still going to be a really good player. But can you really be a championship contender if Jamal Murray is your second best player and your best perimeter player? So this trade is meant to answer that question by saying no, but we're going to bring in Jrue Holiday in exchange for a couple of younger assets. And Holiday immediately would be a huge difference maker for them, specifically defensively, so that Murray doesn't have to guard a very good guard on the other team. Holiday can take care of the other team's best perimeter player, and again, as a playmaker and a scorer and a shooter, would be a really good fit next to Murray. So I do like the idea of this deal, but I'm not sure that the Nuggets need to be really all in on going for some kind of championship push this season, as I'll be talking about in a video coming up here very soon. For the Pelicans, they're going to be getting back Gary Harris, who is under contract for the next couple of seasons and really hasn't been playing all that well lately. I'm not sure how good of an asset he really is at this point. Also Malik Beasley, who I like as a player but is a restricted free agent this offseason. Jared Vanderbilt, I'm not really sure what he's going to be in the league at this point, and then a first-round pick. So I'm not super excited really about any of those assets, but depending on your opinion of Gary Harris, this could end up being a good trade package for the Pelicans. I'm not super excited about it, but it could end up being something that the Pelicans could look at depending on the other offers on the table. Next up now is Jrue Holiday going to the San Antonio Spurs in exchange for Patty Mills, Trey Lyles, Luka Samanic, and Keldon Johnson. So if you watched my How to Fix the San Antonio Spurs video that came out recently, then you'll know that there is a scenario in which this team could potentially trade some of their younger assets in exchange for another veteran all-star caliber player alongside DeMar DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge, rather than trading those guys away and continuing to try and be better this year. And this is one of those circumstances. Now again, this isn't a ton of value. If you want to convince me that they should throw in a first-round pick, that's absolutely fair. But let's talk about what the Pelicans are going to get in this deal. Keldon Johnson was just a first-round pick. Samanic is someone that I know that the Spurs are excited about and could be really good down the road. You get Trey Lyles, who's still an okay young player, and then you get Patty Mills, who essentially is here to make the salary work and will be an expiring next year. So again, if you want to throw a first-round pick onto that, that's fine. If you want to mix and match who the young guys from the Spurs are, that's completely fine. If you want to throw Lonnie Walker in there or something. But for the Spurs, again, this is all about just getting another borderline all-star caliber player, consolidating some of the younger assets, and then just trying to push for something more than what they are this season and not really caring too much about their future plans. Again, for the Pelicans, not super excited about this return. I think there are probably other better packages out there, but if you're the Spurs, this is probably about as far as you're willing to go in this situation, unless you're going to add a first-round pick as well. And then last up, Earthquake says that the Pelicans would send Jrue Holiday, Derek Favors, and Kenrich Williams to the Heat in exchange for Goran Dragic, Dion Waiters, Myers Leonard, Kendrick Nunn, and a first-round pick. He says the Pelicans get cap relief, a rookie who can put up points in a hurry with Nunn, and a future first. The Heat get Holiday as well as some much-needed frontcourt help and Derek Favors, and a serviceable wing with Kenrich Williams. All right, so there's a lot to go over here. Let's start first with what the Pelicans are getting. Dragic is a pretty big expiring contract. They could bring him back if they wanted to, but more than likely, wouldn't be surprised if there's a third team involved here that could potentially take on Dragic and make the other salaries work in some other way, because I don't really think that the Pelicans would be that excited about bringing him in. Same thing with Dion Waiters, just a big salary, probably not going to play at all at this point this year, but again, he's here to make the salaries work. Meyers Leonard, another big expiring contract. The two assets here are Nunn, who's been really good to start this season, has started to taper off a little bit, but still looks to be a good young player, and then the first round pick that is so far in the future that you really don't know what to make of it. On the other hand, for the Heat, we've already talked about the value of Holiday a couple of different times. You're also getting front court depth and Favors, as well as a big expiring contract, and then Kenrich Williams as well, who can help you a little bit on the perimeter. My question here is, why are we bothering with all of the other stuff, right? Like, why is it not just like Dragic, Nunn, and a first round pick plus salary filler for Holiday? I don't really understand why like Favors is here and Dion Waiters is here and all this other stuff. I don't fully understand why it needs to be more complicated than just Dragic, Leonard, Nunn, and a first round pick for Holiday. And I feel like that would be, depending on the circumstance, a trade package that the Pelicans would consider. So I do like the concept here, but I feel like maybe it just got a little bit overcomplicated. I think there are reasons for both teams to say yes to this. I think the Heat get more out of this than the Pelicans do. And again, if it was simplified, maybe that would help them out a little bit more, because I'm not really sure what I would want to take on, the 2-year contract of Dion Waiters or anything like that. But that is going to be the end of today's video, and I thank you all very much for watching. Once again, my name is Tucker. If you missed any of my previous videos, then be sure to check out the boxes on screen. Thanks again, and I'll see you all next time.